some stories that occurred at CERN, supposedly dimensional beings or satanic portals. It's hard to wrap your mind around that there is something larger than everything. I mean, of course, this timeline is only moving forward because, well, the expansion of infinite number of realities behind it. But what happened was we made this universe sort of out of balance, and our universe...
Because of the collider, the super collider?
Yeah, we altered the weight of a single electron, which I believe shifted us into a parallel universe, considering that we caused a chain reaction that could have catastrophically destroyed our universe. I mean, even when we thought about starting it, we thought our universe would implode, and then it didn't, and we're like, oh, it's okay. Well, maybe it did implode. We just instantly got shifted to another universe.
And that's your belief?
In my belief. Of course, this is just a theory and it's still being developed.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe in that infinitely small moment of time, we were instantly shifted.
Could it also be that there were some people at CERN who are kind of like quantum hackers, and they go, we have this little vulnerability in time-space continuum, and we're going to go in and we're going to pick these iconic moments in our civilization, you know, mirror, mirror on the wall, things like that, and we're going to change them just to screw up people's heads to realize that reality is not as they think it.
That could be completely possible, although there's some stories, fairy tales, campfire, scary tales that occurred at CERN, supposedly, or that are set at CERN, dimensional beings or satanic portals, a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. And a lot of people believe they have to do that to consistently maintain our universe, or bridging two universes or dimensions even together. Now, then again, they're fairy tales.
Okay.
And since when are fairy tales real? But then again, all fairy tales are based off of something. It's hard to wrap your mind around that there is something larger than everything.
Which is, how do you...
It's
right.
even a paradox as itself. It's an oxymoronic phrase.
And that's where you come back to God. Well, God could be God of the universe or the multiverse, but then...
There must be another multiverse of multiverses of multiverse where there's a universe where there is another more powerful or less powerful or equal God as we defined it in E equals MC squared, the new definition of God. Universes and infinite parallel universes constantly being created is literally flow of reality and time as we know it. So, technically, there's a universe in which God can exist, right? So, like, as your book suggests, God is everything because of E equals MC squared. Literally, God is within and can be everything. But then again, if there's an infinite number of parallel universes, there is an infinite possibility that there's a parallel universe in which God does not exist or is more powerful. In other words, can God create an unliftable stone or object? If so, then God should not be able to lift it. But if God is truly powerful, then he should be able to lift it, and therefore he can't create an unliftable stone. So that's a paradox right there. Anyway, but the point about that is that means that there is a power that is greater than God. And considering that there is an infinite number of vibrations and therefore an infinite number of realities within our dimensional space, or I guess altered dimensional space, considering that they're either higher or lower, still in the same confined space, there is an infinite number of parallel realities with an infinite number of parallel dimensions that actually can create a powerful or less powerful form of God E equals MC squared as we know it. Unfortunately, though, this is a paradox, quite how we encounter one with Aleph Null. In other words, imagine a line, right? And then from that line, you put a smaller line that is a fraction of that is a fraction closer to the original line, and then the same thing for that line, the same thing for that. Eventually you'll end up with this triangle shape, and that triangle shape is infinity, technically, in a confined space. Anyway, what we're getting here is we're getting into a factoring infinity to the highest level, and after that, eventually you get other facts like Trin and a whole bunch of other higher infinities. And a lot of theorists, such as myself, have believed to figure out these highest infinities to a point where we start to get to our cardinals. And after we get to our cardinals, we start to get to uncountable cardinals.
So you were saying back to the E equals MC squared and the new definition of God, which was our original conversation. You're saying it's accurate, but you're saying it's not accurate.
Right, so just like quantum physics and superposition, everything can be in a state of either positive and negative at the same time, rather than positive or negative, as we know in our mechanical classical world here. But that means that there is an infinite number of parallel universes in our multiverse, and there's an infinite number of these realities. And in each reality, as every electron spins an animator of an animator to an animator to an animator around a nuclei of an atom, we're catapulted into, an infinite number of alternate universes. Just imagine this is the start of the universe. This is our original timeline, right? But as soon as this starts, we are infinitely catapulted into an infinite number of parallel universes. And somewhere infinity down the line, here's our universe, right? And then we're constantly shifting into alternate universes as we speak. And that expansion of infinite universes is our reality as we know it in time. So therefore, if there are other universes, they're next to ours. And this actually relates to my theory of the Mandela effect and how the particle accelerator altered the weight of one electron and therefore destroyed our universe and shifted us into the universe that's directly next to it. And therefore, things are different in this universe.
So you believe that this thing that some people call the Mandela effect is actually real?
Oh, absolutely real.
Can you describe what it is for people who have never heard it before?
Sure. So the Mandela effect is the effect of some people thought that Nelson Mandela at a certain time, and other people remember it as a different time. And this goes for a lot of other things. Star Wars, classic videos, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Everybody knows that. Well, if you actually look back to the original film, it's not Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. It's Magic Mirror on the Wall. And some people actually...
Which, of course, it's not.
It's not,
in
right.
the reality I grew up in.
Right, exactly. And, I mean, some people in this reality, I guess, maybe didn't make it from our last reality, I'm thinking. I'm still trying to figure out why they don't remember it. And some people do. But anyway, though, that is the Mandela effect, and we are living in an alternate expansion of our universes. Even in my own scientific notes, I've found rewritten signatures and things that are a little bit different from originally what I wrote.
So how did that actually happen? Let's take your notebook, or let's take Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, like an old film, animated film. How did it actually change?
Well, it never changed. We changed. You see, we were moving relative to our universe, and then our universe destroyed, so now the universe started to move, or I guess our parallel universes, our multiverse started to move parallel to us, because we were out of alignment, and that just destroyed everything. So technically, the universe didn't change, we did. Do I think that I know it? I think that I might have some basic, very, very basic idea, even gist, of what possibly can be happening. But then again, this is just theoretical physics, and even in, the title, it's theoretical.
Right.
I don't actually know everything that's happening. There's never a way that I can. So really, it's just a matter of how much do I think that I can explain the unexplainable. And maybe I'm not even explaining it all.
The Portland FBI office warning that hackers could take over your unsecured TVs, cyber stalk you, even use it as a gateway for them to come into your home.
Much of that information is just as vulnerable as anything on your phone, and if it has your TV has a weak or non-existent password, all of that information is accessible by cyber attackers.
Hacker warns you to check your TV immediately. A clear sign that something dangerous may already be lurking in your living room.
If you just bought a smart TV this Black Friday or Cyber Monday, the FBI is also issuing a warning over those devices. Last week, the FBI posted about the risks of having a smart TV on its website. The agency says the devices can be gateways for hackers to access your home and other devices because they are connected to the internet. That means hackers can take control of your unsecured TV and play with its settings, and in some cases, take control of your TV's camera and microphone to watch and listen in on you. So really scary stuff when it comes to these smart TVs.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Vlad. The last time I bought a phone that was a non-smartphone, it's a long time ago.
Yes.
Same thing with your television. And just like we have to lock our phones down and our home computers down, now we have to lock down all of these smart devices in our living rooms, including our televisions. The smart TV has a bunch of really smart and very useful data on it. It also means that this data is pretty valuable, not just to device makers, but to hackers.
This isn't just a minor flaw. It's a glaring weakness in your TV's security that hackers can easily exploit.
So that device is probably secured with a really insecure default password. Often this is 12345, or it is admin, something that is really easy to change. And that means that hackers kind of already know the best devices in their hacker forums. They're able to talk about the best devices to hack and the best methods of hacking these devices.
So should people, I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, I saw a picture of Mark Zuckerberg doing an interview, and it was a still photograph, and he was in his office, and he had a laptop, and he had a little piece of tape over the camera of the laptop. Is that one way that people can protect themselves, by sort of blocking the cameras, the camera aperture on their smart TVs?
Well, if your smart TV has a camera on it, or like the new Facebook Portal, which is a TV-like device, it's a smart screen with a camera on the front of it. Many of the Alexa devices sold by Amazon also have cameras on the front of those. So whether it's a TV or just a device with a screen, yeah, you want to make sure that that little slider is covering the camera, and that the microphones are also physically covered. Now, the new Alexa devices sold by Amazon have what they call privacy protections built in. You want to make sure that you are covering your device camera with tape yourself, and that you're covering those microphone holes. If you want this to be truly offline, also make sure you unplug it.
Your smart TV might be more than a device. It could be a digital spy watching your every move.
Okay, there are also reports that smart TVs themselves are watching what you do and reporting the data back to the company that made the devices. So what kind of information are they using?
Well, just think about your phone and all of the important information that's available on your phone created by applications. So on your smart TV, there might be Netflix, there might be YouTube, and all of these applications, just like the apps on your phone, they talk to not just the device maker back home, but they talk to each other, and they send information between each other. So much of that information is just as vulnerable as anything on your phone, and if it has your TV has a weak or non-existent password, all of that information is accessible by cyber attackers.
So conceivably, what could they be using this data for?
Well, for the same data, the same reason you might want to siphon information off of your phone, that's pretty useful not just to hackers, but to big data companies. However, what's really interesting is this new practice called cookie syncing. That is when I have a cookie that's a little piece of data on my computer or my phone that identifies my browser and what I'm doing on that phone or with the applications. I can then sign into accounts. Those accounts I'm also signed into on my television, and it lets me, or it lets device makers, sync the information between my TV, my phone, and my computer, so you can have a pretty good idea of who someone is and their habits.
The real danger is that the companies selling these smart TVs provide little transparency about security vulnerabilities, leaving you completely in the dark while your privacy is at risk.
How transparent are companies when it comes to this kind of stuff? Because I know that the Vizio was fined a couple of years ago, and subsequently they had to become more transparent. Is that the case now?
So Vizio and a few other device makers would just perpetually connect to your Wi-Fi connection and then send data back home, even if you had told them not to. However, California's new data protection regulation goes into effect January 2020. That is less than 1 month from right now, and that means all of these companies, this is kind of a de facto regulation for the rest of the United States, so all of these companies will have to be a lot less opaque and a little more transparent about how they use your data and where that data is going.
FBI has issued a warning that smart TVs with built-in cameras could actually be spying on you. The Portland FBI office warning that hackers could take over your unsecured TVs, cyber stalk you, even use it as a gateway for them to come into your home.
It is a realistic problem. So here's the deal, David, is we've got our existing TVs that are out there, and what happens is software gets updated to the TV sets that may reset your privacy controls, because what you want is to just know how much of your own privacy you want to share. So you want to be able to taper that down to what you're comfortable with or turn it off altogether.
What you think is just a screen on the wall might actually be a doorway for someone to step into your private life.
And then you have the hacker side of it all, which is how can someone get into my TV and snoop on me? That's a relatively easy thing, especially when you start adding in, say, a Roku stick or another device that each one of those opens up access to it. So I think the really good idea is every time you change your smoke detector batteries, you want to take a look at your TV settings, and it's go back to that initial setup and just set, it's a pain in the rear end, but I got to tell you, it's worth it, because you better believe that they have the power to snoop through your TV. Not many TVs have webcams at this point. In fact, like the last couple hundred TVs I've looked at have no camera, but they all have microphone or listening devices.
And of course, you have the proliferation of audio devices, whether it's Google Assist or Alexa, and the voice activation that appliances are now going to have, particularly with 5G. I guess the only question, Kurt, is there has to be some awareness on the part of everybody that these devices do go two ways, right? Meaning anything that can listen to you, that can take your orders, can listen to you for reasons that you don't want them listening to you. And I guess it's more being aware of the fact that we're living in an increasingly porous, invasive world, and not one that's purely going in one direction, right?
I think you're right, Zach. I think we're at that point where we've got the education. We now know that all of these smart devices will snoop on us if we give them the right to do so. And some do it without our permission. So now we get to the point of saying, okay, what's my plan to address that? And my answer to that is ever so often simply go on, know how to do that controlling initial setup on your TV. Most times it's as straightforward as hitting settings and then whatever that initial setup is. And then, take a look at those settings every 6 months and say, have they changed that? Because oftentimes makers of TVs, in the name of privacy, will update their software, giving us greater control of privacy. But in the same token, it may open the floodgates of that information until we go back and make those setting changes again.
Let's say I go to Best Buy and I buy a new, big flat panel TV. Can I have the people at Best Buy disable the camera or whatever it is that allows the? If not, I would think there'd be a cottage industry for that kind of thing, is to take away the opportunity for the government to spy on your living room.
Well, remember the Geek Squad? So Best Buy has those kind of services, but I don't think consumers are willing to pay for that. But as part of an installation, if you do spend the money, number one time of year is sporting events like Super Bowl for TV sales, only to be followed by this moment in the year.
Yep.
The holiday period is a huge time for TV purchases. So if you can get them to just tell you how to do it, it really isn't that complicated. I would love to have my own technology valet, though, at home.
But the story is just get it done, right? I mean, is this any worse than what's happening with Siri and Alexa and all these other things? I mean, aren't we just being spied on constantly, really?
Yeah, but is that okay? It's not.
Well, but it's happening. I mean,
it's happening, and you have a millennial to say, "Oh, I don't care."
Yeah.
You don't care until some money's missing from your bank account.
No, that's true.
Or it's the after effect of that. So yeah, we should care, and it is not necessarily any different than everything else that's coming at us, and we got to be aware of it.